Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin, as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you guys want to see more coverage on the Galaxy A36, make sure you stay subscribed. I have a lot more videos coming on this phone and different other devices that are coming out. So be on the lookout and stay tuned. With that being said, today we are going to be taking a look at the Galaxy A36 5G, which is the successor to the Galaxy A35. And it does bring in some exciting new changes. While the design is not dramatically different, there are some subtle differences that kind of differentiate the A36 from the A35, beginning with the obvious, which is this camera cutout. So a new camera design that kind of resembles the Galaxy Fold, and I'm actually surprised that it made it more so towards the Galaxy A lineup before it did to the Galaxy S lineup of their phones. But nice look for Samsung, a little bit of a refresher. And so on the right hand side you still have your power, volume up and down, and this sort of indentation that leads to the power button and volume up and down. Now the sides are made out of plastic and this indentation is a little bit more subtle than the previous generation, which actually gives the phone a better feel in the hand and it makes it easier for me to click the buttons. On the bottom of the phone you do have your bottom facing speaker, your SIM tray, as well as your USB-C port that does support up to 45 watt of quick charging. Now the previous generation only maxed out at 25 watts, so a dramatic increase in quick charge speeds. And basically that's the story behind the design. The sides are made out of plastic, but yeah, that's the refresher of the Galaxy A36 design wise. So I want to speak on this display now for a little bit. First of all, you do get a larger display from the previous generation, so you get a 6.7 inch versus the 6.6 inch that is found on the Galaxy A35. It is a AMOLED display and it did get a little bit of improvement in the brightness department. So now you get 1200 nits of brightness and then you get 1900 nits of high peak brightness. Now from the bezels perspective, it did get slightly smaller bezels at 86.5% screen to body ratio, but for the most part it's not really that noticeable. The bezels are still there. They don't really bother me or anything like that. This phone's display is really nice. So in addition to all that, you still get the 120 Hz of high refresh rate. Now it is adaptive, meaning that the phone decides when you need the 120 Hz and when you need the lower kind of refresh rate to help save battery and be a little bit more efficient. But overall though, from my couple of hours of using this phone, this display is definitely an improved version from the previous generation. So I don't really have an issue with it. Now the next topic of conversation that I want to speak on briefly is the camera conversation. So this time around you get a 50 megapixel f1.8 aperture with optical image stabilization. You get an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 5 megapixel macro sensor, the ability to shoot 4K at 30 frames per second, or if you want 1080p at 30 or 60 frames per second. A 12 megapixel selfie camera that is also capable of shooting 4K video and 10-bit HDR content. So that's pretty cool actually. So in the few hours that I've spent with this phone, I can't really say that this is a drastically improved camera from the previous generation just yet. Like I said, I've only spent a couple of hours with it. I only took several pictures. I didn't really do no low light performance or anything like that. But this is definitely in the works, so stay tuned for that. I do have to say that switching between the ultra wide and the main sensor is very smooth. So this new kind of sort of improved camera interface does make the experience a little bit better. And I also noticed that when you go to the ultra wide, it does give you this kind of fisheye lens to it. Okay, as far as image quality goes, like I said, from the pictures that I've took, they seem pretty decent. I do have to do some comparisons and things like that to test out the HDR and the sharpness and detail, but it seems like it can handle itself just fine. So you do have your standard sensor and you can go up to 10x, which will lose a lot of detail and stuff like that, but it works fine. Color seems to be decent, but the full camera review is in the works. Now, I want to take this conversation and speak a little bit on the performance. So this time around, Samsung did go away with the Exynos processor. So you now get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 processor, and it is an octa-core processor. You also have a couple of good news. So the Adreno 710 is for your GPU, but the biggest news that I'm happy to share is that it comes standard with Android 15 and you will get up to 6 major Android upgrades. From a storage perspective, you do get the standard is 128 gigabytes and 6 gigabytes of RAM. That's for the kind of US model. The international model does go up to 256 and 12 gigabytes of RAM. We just don't have that available here. It does have a 5000 milliamp hour battery as well, and the ability to charge at 45 watts. It is also, that's not really in the performance, but it is also IP67 water and dust resistant. So that's also something nice. Now, from a performance perspective, to be honest with you, I think it's going to perform basically the same as the Galaxy A35. There's not really much that I can say in terms of it being drastically better. Yeah, the charging speed is nicer, and I heard that Samsung did change the internals a little bit to help with efficiency and help with the cooling of the phone. So for a sustained period of time, it may perform better than the Galaxy A35. But this has been my impressions. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the Galaxy A36. I do have to note that it is missing wireless charging, which is a little bit of a letdown considering something like the Moto G Power, which comes in at $299, does have it, and this phone starts at $399. And for that price, I feel like wireless charging should be a standard. So with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this impressions part of the Galaxy A36. More videos are coming soon, so stay tuned, stay subscribed, and I will definitely catch you guys